This is Kentucky Afield Radio. This is Ron Rohde, Kentucky Afield's first host back in 1953. Now, I'm proud to present Charlie Baglan.
It's one of the most popular publications ever produced by the state of Kentucky. The annual Kentucky Fishing and Boating Guide, outlining fishing and boating regulations across the state. We go inside outdoors with fisherman and editor Lee McClellan for highlights of what's new and improved for this year's edition. Every sport fish, every lake, put one in every tackle box you own. From cover to cover, it covers Kentucky. Next on Kentucky Afield Radio.
Kentucky's Nature and Wildlife Fund. You see it as a contribution option when you prepare your state tax return. But you also see it as songbirds and wildflowers. You can see it in clear, flowing streams. Sometimes it's so secluded you may never see it at all. But if you only see it on your PC as you prepare your taxes, that's good too. Google it and see the difference this fund makes. Kentucky's Nature and Wildlife Fund, the natural tax shelter.
I failed to enter the elk draw last year, and all I've done is whine.
So, how are those New Year's resolutions? Remember those? Here's one you can finish today. Registering for the Kentucky Elk Hunt. The Kentucky Fish and Wildlife Elk Draw website is the one and only place you can register for once-in-a-lifetime excitement. fw.ky.gov. It's the easy resolution. fw.ky.gov.
This is Kentucky Afield Radio. My name's Charlie Baglan. A show today about doing things only to find out the rules have changed. From speed limits to channel changes on your cable system, it pays to keep abreast of updates. Today we're looking at the changes that have been put in place for the sport of fishing. There's not been a lot of them, but a few. And it affects about a fourth of the people that live in Kentucky. And even if you don't fish, the discussion I'm about to have with today's guest, Lee McClellan, will give you insight into how fish populations around the state are studied and managed. There really is a science to it. Mr. McClellan, welcome.
It's good to be here.
I want to talk about the Bible, of course. Oh, wait a minute. There's another name for the Bible, the Kentucky Fishing and Boating Guide. When did it get the second title?
This past year.
Because to anyone who fishes, this is the Bible.
I agree.
In magazine form.
Yes, it is.
I like it. You know, I checked it. The number of pages looks like 40 pages. It stops counting at 38. So 40, maybe 41. The exact same number of pages as last year?
Yes, sir.
Are they the same number year after year after year?
It has been, but we have cut it a little, and we try to condense every year and work on any redundancies and things. It's an evolving process. It's a living document.
That's what I was looking for, hoping it would get smaller, or at least not be getting thicker.
It's not getting thicker.
Nonetheless, March 2016, all the way through February of 2017.
Yes, sir.
It is time now to get a new one of these, and they're free.
Yes, they are.
They're available where else?
Anywhere that sells a fishing license. You can also call 1-800-858-1549 and request one. You may also go to fw.ky.gov, and on the rolling screen there is a link to it, and you can print one off at your home.
So you can read it on your phone, too, right?
You sure can.
Lee, I would imagine that got one less print you have to print for me because I'll just read it on my phone. I bet a lot of people are like that. Yes. Are you like that, or do you still like to take the paper version with you?
I take the paper version with me. But then again, I tend to be a little bit anachronistic and have an ambivalent relationship with technology.
Anachronistic. Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
Old-fashioned.
Use it in a sentence.
Lee is anachronistic in regards to the way he uses media.
All right. Now, again, the definition, I didn't even get it by context.
Yeah. It's someone who holds on a little longer than they should, maybe.
Okay, I'd love to see
old-fashioned. It's another word for old-fashioned.
I'd love to see your basement.
My wife does not like it. We've been actually cleaning out some of that stuff. So I like paper. I still like books. So
this is the kind of
that
thing,
makes me an anachronism in the modern world.
This is the type of publication you absolutely have to have in your back pocket, in your tackle box, in your glove box, floating around under the seat, the back seat.
Yes.
By the time the season is done in March of 17, you ought to be able to scrape around and find 4 or 5 of these things you need to recycle.
Yes.
One thing I like about this, though, it's made out of newspaper stock. Did it used to be fancy, shiny pages back in the day?
Back in the day, the cover was fancy, shiny pages. Since I've been here, if memory serves correctly, the inside has always been newspaper stock.
I've made some notes. The only constant is change. More or less this year, we've already established pretty much the same. But I wanted to talk about what has changed from last year to this year. And when you go through the fishing and boating guide, everything that is new this year is right here on page 2.
It sure is.
And there still looks like there's plenty that has changed.
The big driver is the Fisheries Division is restoring our native river run walleye. The strain native to Kentucky that was here before the era of the big reservoirs and dam building. A remnant population existed in the Rockcastle River. They discovered it, and now they're restoring this native river run species back into its native range. So on those waters in which they're doing it, there's now a protective slot limit on those walleye.
Is there enough of this native strain?
I know that they're concerned with genetic diversity always at the hatchery. There's safeguards in place for trout, for anything that we reproduce on a big scale to prevent that kind of thing from happening.
New this year in Kentucky fishing, the round goby. Are these listed on page 2 in the order they appear in the magazine or some alphabetical order?
Things that are lake or stream specific tend to go after the things that are statewide. So the round goby is another one of those wonderful introduced species.
That shouldn't be here.
That was introduced, I believe, kind of like some of the other wonderful things in the Great Lakes from ballast water from international ships.
Of course, you're being derogatory. You're being facetious because they shouldn't be here. So
exactly.
They're really not that wonderful after all.
No.
Asian carp is another one of those. And it's
sea lampreys, zebra mussels.
But the round goby, an aggressive non-native bait fish, may not be possessed or released. I mean, you can't even have it in your, hand?
Correct.
In any of the waters of the state.
Correct.
How do you know if you have it?
The round goby, I've not held one. I know in the Great Lakes there's baits now that imitate them for smallmouth bass when you fish up there because they're established now. But they're very distinctive. They don't resemble young of the year Asian carp. They don't resemble alewives or any of our shad species. They're unusual looking.
Fishing regulations is printed here on page 3. I wanted to ask you about one particular species in this list. You get largemouth, smallmouth bass, Kentucky bass, Coosa bass, rock bass, northern pike. Do we have that species in Kentucky?
There is a small population in Laurel River Lake.
Because it says you can't have a daily limit, a possession limit, and there is no minimum size limit.
Yeah, there's none for a reason.
None. What is that reason?
Because there's no size limit, there's no possession limit, there's no creel.
Okay.
So there's no daily, so it's encouraging you to eat them.
I misunderstood that.
Yes.
It sounded to me like it wanted to be protected.
Several years ago, we had a new state record set out of Laurel River Lake. That let us know that there is a population there.
I understand that now. Much more clearly. That's why I have you on the show.
Well, thank you.
Hatchery Creek is also mentioned on this same page. Talk about Hatchery Creek and what's new there.
Well,
anglers.
And something we don't want people to get confused about. You can fish Hatchery Creek right now, the very upper part.
Let's talk about where it is.
That is below Wolf Creek Dam and Lake Cumberland. You can fish there right now, and they have an aggregate limit now because all 3 species are coming. Not only they release trout in there, they're coming up from the river into this new stream. So it's a short area. It's handicap accessible. It's not real big, but it would be a perfect place to bring children. Be a perfect place for someone who may be not as mobile as they once were. Be a great place to take them. The catch rates are usually pretty high, but once you get down to the first waterfall, and there's a sign, the regulations change into catch and release only all the way to the Cumberland River, and you may only use artificial lures.
This is a cold stream.
Yes.
Year-round?
Yes.
There's that song again. We get talking about something fun, and then we got to take a break. But we will pick up right there on Hatchery Creek the moment we return. Stay with us. You're listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. Kentucky Afield Radio. My name is Charlie Baglan. Lee McClellan is with me, who wears several hats for the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife. Lee, you're a writer for the Kentucky Afield magazine, state record fish coordinator. You're also the editor and writer for the annual Fishing and Boating Guide. Now, if it's printed in blue, if the font is actually in blue ink, we are seeing something that is new for this year. We left off with Hatchery Creek. Pick up there.
The part that you can fly fish, there's all kinds of habitat structures that they installed, things they call lunker bunkers, which are wonderful little undercut banks, which are really important to trout. But if something drifts by one of those lunker bunkers and there's a big trout underneath of it, and he takes a shine, you're going to have a lot of fun.
I bet so.
Yeah, and it's very accessible. You can wade all the way up and down it.
Is it open for fishing as we speak?
That part is not. It will open, it looks like, late April of next year.
Late April of next year.
Yes, there's still some additional work that needs to be done. Plus, the vegetation they've planted along the sides needs to establish itself before there's a lot of foot traffic on it, or they may lose that vegetation.
And I assume signs are posted, no fishing.
Yes, there are. But the upper part is open right now.
Moving right along, and what has changed for the coming fishing year, I see on page 4, Barren River. Upstream of Barren River Lake and downstream from the lake to Lock and Dam number 1, all tributaries. This is part of that walleye management, isn't it?
It sure is.
Walleye I have seen in a lot of things here on page 3 as well. It's Cumberland River upstream from Cumberland Falls and all tributaries.
Yes.
It looks as if how it pertains to walleye is going to be the same in all waters.
All waters where they're restoring the native strain walleye.
Right.
Yes. Now, the Lake Erie strain is what are stocked in, like, say, Green River Lake or Laurel River Lake or Lake Cumberland. And those are under your statewide regulations that are on page 3. They're protecting the reproducing population of these native strain that is still in the process of restoration.
Walleye 2 fish daily creel limit, 18 to 26-inch protective slot.
Yes.
All walleye caught from 18 to 26 inches must be returned immediately.
Yes.
Okay. So you just bear that in mind.
Yes.
I like what you've done. I don't know if you've done it, but I guess since you're the publisher of this, you're the editor, there's little boxes and little tidbits of information. Camping is prohibited on Department of Fish and Wildlife owned and managed lakes. I didn't know that. Now I know that. But there's little tools hidden all through this that...
Well, that is from the skills of Adrienne Yancey. She did a complete redesign of the guide several years ago to make it more reader-friendly, to make it less gray, have little... This information was contained in the guide, but it was in more of a paragraph form. By the little tip boxes, the different colors, it's just much more lively and much easier for the reader to find. Yes, it is. She did a fantastic job on it.
I'm turning the pages along here. We're on page 6, and I see here more on Fish Trap Lake, where you're doing some of that restoration of the native strain of walleye. So, again, that slot limit is in place.
It sure is.
Kentucky River on page 7. If it's highlighted in blue,
it's new.
Upstream of Lock and Dam 14.
Basically, all aspects of the Kentucky River upstream of Lock and Dam 14, whether it be the north, the middle, or the south.
Take me there on a map. Where is Lock and Dam 14?
I want to say it is in Lee County, but it's in that general vicinity.
It sounds like this native strain of walleye is really getting a shot in the arm.
It sure is.
How long normally is the slot limit in place?
Some have been in place for a long time. Some not so much. But usually they're there a while. Like the Elkhorn slot limit's been on there for a long time. Slot limits, what they usually do is protect the population of fish that are in their highest age of sexual maturity. Basically, your 20 to early 30-year-olds. at the most randy age. So it encourages harvest of younger fish or of very older fish, and keeping the youthful breeders in the population.
I love how you put it. Leviza Fork fits in this too. Down on the Leviza Fork of the Big Sandy River. So Fish Trap Lake and all tributaries, walleye, again, the same rules apply. Would it be easier just to list every place where the walleye is being managed, or just go page to page?
Well, if you look on new this year, they're all listed right there.
Okay.
On page 2.
All right, we'll go there right now.
And slot limits not only, I don't want to speak that that's the only reason that they exist. There's other reasons as well, is to keep, they're a management tool. Like there's a slot limit on rainbow trout in the Cumberland River, but reproduction there is limited. But there's always good reason behind them, and they work. It's done wonders on Elkhorn Creek.
How often do you get down to Martin's Fork? Often enough?
No.
Ever?
I've been down that country. Yes, I have.
It's a haul.
It's way down there. The upper part of it is extremely picturesque.
Even if you live in Pikeville, is it still a pretty good haul to get to Martin's Fork?
It's not easy. You're up, I think, on Brush Mountain. And you have to remember the upper part, too, is controlled by the Cumberland Gap National Historical Park. Mm-hmm. So... But the upper part of, the other day, I found in some of my old research notes the original proposals for the Wild Rivers designation in 1978. And some of the first rivers they proposed to be included in this Wild Rivers designation. And Martin's Fork was one of them, just for its scenic beauty, especially in the part that's in the Cumberland Gap. It's really beautiful.
I've seen it from the air. Mm-hmm. I flew over, and I can't remember the occasion, 25 years ago, in a helicopter in fall. Mm-hmm. So the colors were brilliant. So a nice place to visit if you can get down there. But still, that's one other place where the walleye slot limit is in place.
It sure is. Something else that's changed for this year is the fish consumption advisories have grown a little more restrictive. Now, that's out of our hands, but those are very important on page 18 and 17. You'll notice there's quite a bit of blue lettering.
There is.
Yes.
You've got here in blue lettering predatory fish and bottom feeders and panfish. Mm-hmm. So you have 3 different categories of fish?
They've split them out this year, yes. Now, this is not our doing. This is on the national level. But, yes, they have.
It says here, once a month, you can have predatory fish. That would be bass. Mm-hmm. And a bottom feeder, catfish.
And panfish, too.
Panfish, bluegill.
Yes. You can eat 1 meal of bluegill a week. If you're the general population, and again, read about the census population, that's generally children and women of childbearing age or women who are pregnant, and bluegills. So, you're like walleye, bass.
I know you put this in here because the federal government recommends you do that for the safety of its citizenry.
Correct.
My bet is, though, people eat this stuff every day.
I would say that happens, yes.
Not that we're suggesting that, but
no.
Has it gotten worse? Have these advisories become more intense over the years?
This is the first significant change I can remember. Again, I don't like to speculate on things that I know fractional stuff about, but this is what, in my memory of the fishing guide, this is the first major change in quite a long time.
But these fish consumption advisories, these are statewide.
Yes.
Lee, I know you fish. If you're not asleep, you're not at work, you're fishing. Mm-hmm. I know that. You have to eat a lot of what you catch. Do you not?
I eat some. My wife is allergic to fish, so that does keep me. When I'm on a fishing trip with friends or when I have people over, yes. And when I go out to eat, I do. But I'm still cognizant of the consumption advisories.
So, again, it's once a month if you're going to eat a predatory fish. Mm-hmm. If you're going to eat catfish, and God, there's nothing as good, mm-hmm. you can do that once a week. Do you say you eat fish more than once a week?
No.
Nonetheless, these fish consumption advisories are here. And
it's just something people need to consult.
Yes, should avail yourself to this information on page 18.
Yes.
I learned something as I was thumbing through this fishing and boating guide. Fish may not be taken with the use of a firearm. I guess I just never considered that before. The bullet will skim off the water, and you never know where it's going to land.
Yes.
Did I see something new in here about bow fishing?
There's a relatively new arrow system that runs on, it's pressurized
pneumatic arrows.
Arrows, yes. They are legal for bow fishing. The best bow fishing system is of dropping the bucket compared to the cost of one of these.
Could it double your harvest?
Maybe, but maybe not. It just looks like to me it's a little easier to use, that's all. I mean, if you're a good shot with a bow, you're a good shot with a bow. If you're not, you're not. I don't remember the exact cost, but I was surprised.
Yeah, somebody trying to make a buck. Nothing new there. More to come with our regulation changes for Kentucky fishing and boating for the year 2016. And still to come, is there a state record fish in your future? Plus, our weekly fishing report is still ahead in the next half hour. Stay with us. My name is Charlie Baglan. You're listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. Baglan back on Kentucky Afield Radio. We're into our second half hour. Fishing Report is standing by. If there's something about this show you like, you'd like to hear again, or maybe you would like to share it with a friend of yours, maybe on Facebook, email. The link is pretty easily found. You can go to our YouTube channel. Just go to the search box there on youtube.com, put in Kentucky Afield Radio. Our list will pop up. You can also find us on Facebook. Kentucky Afield Radio is the name of our page. We do not, I repeat, do not inundate you with pictures of cats. If you see something posted by us, it's kind of worthwhile. Plus, you'll find the weekly link. The Kentucky Fishing and Boating Guide is this week's topic, and we'll have more. First up, our fishing report.
Hi, this is John Williams with the Fishing Report for Southeast Kentucky. Trout are being stocked this week in Rock Creek down in McCord County in the Vanderbilt National Forest. Those can be caught on spinners or small cranks. Elsewhere in the district, walleye should be getting ready to spawn here in the next 2 or 3 weeks. They should be shallow on the riprap of Lake Cumberland, Wolf Creek Dam, or on Laurel Lake. Also running up the major river systems, Cumberland River, Big South Fork, say around Yamacraw, even above that, first riffle or so. Elsewhere in the district, we're starting a krill survey on Lake Cumberland, so you may be running into our krill clerks during the year, asking about your fishing trip. And as always, good luck and be safe.
Down in western Kentucky, at Kentucky and Barkley Lakes, it's starting to pick up for crappie season. Water's starting to warm up, getting close to 50. The crappie, the white crappie, are still being caught on the good days out in the deeper water, fishing jigs. But most of the activity's been on minnows. And then you can always cast the bank. And of course, the clearer the water, the better. LBL side always providing a lot more clear water than some of your larger embayments. But casting the banks with a curly tail jig or an inline spinner is good for those black crappie. But like I said, minnows right now seem to be where all the action is. So maybe a minnow underneath of a bobber cast up along the shoreline could be productive. Bass fishing, still kind of slow, but it is picking up out on the deeper secondary points. Still using some Alabama rigs and worms, crankbaits. But as that water warms up, those bass will move up. Well, this is Paul Reister, and I hope you find a good day to come fishing.
This is Rob Rold in the Northwestern Fishery District with an update on fishing in our area. Our two core reservoirs, Nolin River Lake and Rough River Lake, are 8 to 10 foot above the winter pool and pretty muddy at the time. These warmer, sunny days are also a good time to catch some of the larger bass at Lake Malone. We had our Finns Lake stocked with trout last week, and those are in Owensboro, Panther Creek Park, Yellow Creek Park, and Wayman Morris Park, and also in Madisonville to Madisonville City Park Lake. Anglers are doing well there. In addition, we had 2 other lakes stocked. That's Sandy Watkins Park in Henderson County and Morton's Lake on the Higgins and Henry Wildlife Management Area in Union County. They were both stocked with trout last week as well. Peabody was stocked a couple of weeks ago with trout, and anglers are still catching them there. And that's Flycatcher Lake, Robb's Lake, and Access Lake on Peabody WMA. Please remember, be safe on the water. Always wear your life jackets.
I failed to enter the elk draw last year, and all I've done is whine.
So, how are those New Year's resolutions? Remember those? Here's one you can finish today. Registering for the Kentucky Elk Hunt. The Kentucky Fish and Wildlife Elk Draw website is the one and only place you can register for once-in-a-lifetime excitement. fw.ky.gov. It's the easy resolution. fw.ky.gov.
We are back on Kentucky Afield Radio. My name is Charlie Baglan. We're talking about the new Kentucky Fishing and Boating Guide, now available wherever you buy your fishing license. It's even available on your phone. Just go to the Fish and Wildlife website, fw.ky.gov, whenever you need it. Updates you should know about before you go. Lee McClellan, every year it's his job to make sure the publication happens. Something I like about what you put in here, and you've been putting this in here for years, is the Angler's Fish Identification Guide. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing, if you look through here, just how much a sauger looks like a walleye.
Oh, I know.
Just how much. To somebody, a novice fisherman, like I guess a lot of people are, hybrid striped bass, a striped bass, a white bass, a yellow bass, I mean, they're all twins. Mm-hmm. It's amazing how closely they resemble each other.
Hybrids and whites, I'm experienced at catching both. I still struggle.
Where do you think most anglers are going to get in trouble the most, simply because they thought they had one when they really have another?
Which species?
Yeah.
I would have to say the hybrids and whites. That's why the regulations were changed. If you look on back on page 3, now it's white and hybrid striped bass. It has some of the asterisks on it. No more than 5 fish, maybe 15 inches long. That kind of took the oh my God, is it a hybrid? Oh my God, is it a white? Out of the equation. So no matter what, if you have a white or you have a hybrid stripe, you can only keep 5 of them that are 15 inches or more, which is usually a hybrid. You don't catch too, I mean, you can, but white bass, usually most of the ones I catch are anywhere from 11 to 14 inches. You can catch bigger ones than that. It's very possible, especially if you're really on them. But that's kind of was a way to eliminate that hurdle from people, because they're tough. I'd say they are the toughest to differentiate.
They would have to be.
A lot of people that I've witnessed struggle mightily with the difference between spots and largemouths, which is spotted bass and largemouths, which are and also white and black crappie. The spots and largemouths, the crappies, but by far and away the one I think is the toughest is hybrid stripe and white bass.
White crappie, black crappie, mm-hmm. to me basically look like the same fish.
Well, the one thing I've noticed with whites, you do have that barring effect, and with blacks you have the speckled effect.
True.
And blacks, when they get a little older, sometimes tend to have, especially in spring, just a hint of bluish purplish to their backs.
But these
black crappie are just beautiful. I think they're one of the most beautiful fish that swims.
These pages that are here for the sports fisherman that wants to do it right, mm-hmm. know what they're catching, at least be able to talk about what they caught, should turn to these pages. Looks like page 19, 20, and 21. Mm-hmm. These are the key species.
And also, if you're collecting bait, the bar there on page 21 that shows the threatened and endangered fishes, you can't use those. So it's very important to know if you're collecting bait where these live, beware of what you're doing.
I remember fisheries biologists on previous shows, we would have on talking about state record fish, and they would say, before you call me, make sure you know what you've caught.
And this helps a lot, yes.
Because I'm sure that there may be a fish, and I can't give you an example, that maybe if it were just side by side on a page, mm-hmm. they look a lot alike. But in real life, one's going to be 2 pounds and one of them's going to be 12.
Yes.
So at least that helps you before you start saying, hey, I just caught a state record, I'm calling a biologist, and have them come identify this.
That's happened. That happens. You know, people think they have one thing and they have another. Not common, but it happens. One of the things I've noticed some confusion with is now in the Cumberland River, we have brook trout, we have brown trout, and we have rainbows. Once you see them once or twice, they're very distinctive, but if you haven't fished for them a whole lot, when they're smaller, it's easy to confuse a brook and a rainbow. Browns are distinctive, and they have their own color. It's really hard to goof that one up.
I can see that. There's something new on page 22 that I haven't seen before. Maybe it's been there, but I think I've missed it. The monofilament recycling bin, the logo here. Fishing line.
Yes.
Has that been brought up as an issue in the past fishing guides?
No.
Where you take your line...
Littering has.
Yeah, littering.
And we mentioned fishing line in there.
It's a part of fishing, but it actually affects animals, the wildlife. So you come through, you'll have a duck or a heron or any number of animals will come through, get tangled in that, and that doesn't help anything.
No.
And so you're advocating here recycling the line.
Yes.
Can you talk more about the monofilament recycling program?
They're basically PVC pipes. When you're fishing at some of our more popular public lakes where there's a lot of bank fishing, say you break off or you get something hung in a tree and then you break your line and you have a whole lot of line left over. Roll it up and put it in these tubes. We chose this yellow sign because that's the one they're going to put on the tubes to let people know.
Okay. So that'll identify them.
That hey, put it here. And even if you don't have one, it's imperative. My wife gets really angry with me because she'll wash my clothes and there'll be like fishing line hanging out of the shirt pocket, hanging out of my pants pocket. Take that stuff out of the environment. And I think it's just, fishing is a privilege. And it's so important to get that stuff out of the environment. It's really sad when you're out here at the game farm and you see a goose who's limping and limping and limping, and you know that there's a good chance that goose is probably going to lose that appendage because of fishing line. So if you do break off and you can retrieve it, and recycle it.
And it's not just line. This is bobbers, hooks,
everything.
Light tackle that's no more, can't use anymore. Okay, well, that's a good thing. You'll see that on page 22. There's information there. You can read more about it. There was a while there, Lee, I was afraid I was going to lose you. When I picked up the Kentucky Afield magazine, the fall issue from last year, 2015, I was scared I was going to lose you. I read this article that you had written about Floating Buck Creek. I said, he's found paradise. You're going to move down there.
Yeah, it's really cool, man.
The Blue Water Trails series, that's still going on. How many do you have in the series now?
I think 34, if memory serves correctly. We're going to do some more this year. It's getting into the later stages of it because we've profiled a lot of we have to profile areas that have access. And I know there's a committee that's looking at more access on our streams. It's something we're working toward. So as more streams open up and become available, it's going to be a constantly evolving thing. It's something I've really enjoyed doing. And look for some more this year.
The subtitle of this article says, Encounter the Eerie Cave Smoke with this Pulaski County Paddle by Lee McClellan. Let me read a little bit here, if I may. No other landscape in Kentucky quite compares to Buck Creek. The cave pumps cold air and fog over the surface of the creek, lending both the embracing refreshment of coolness with a slight feeling of eeriness, as if the underworld is venting its displeasure at paddlers trespassing on its holy waters. That's deep, Lee.
It'll do that to you down there. The one cave, there's several caves on that particular float.
Can you float back into them at all?
No. At high water, but I don't recommend you float it at too high water. It's extremely unique. The famous one is what a lot of people call, it's right by Kentucky 192, Dykes Cave, and it's a well-known one. When you go by it, it's foggy. You can feel the air like a giant. It's like a giant air conditioner.
Yeah.
We floated in August. It had rained all day. It was really hot. I've been down there waiting before too, where you could feel it, and it's bracing. It's so cool.
Conversely, warmer air come out of it in winter, and will you see the same fog in winter on cold water?
I believe that you would. I've not been down there in winter.
Makes you wonder. Buck Creek, you close the article with, it's an experience of visual beauty, Earth's complex geology, and great fishing. Fall is a great time to visit one of Kentucky's overlooked wonders, but I'm wondering, sounds like a treat anytime you want to go down there year-round.
Oh, it sure is. It's just... It's fabulous. It's just fabulous. When you go by Whetstone Creek, it looks like a skull in the side of a little bluff. Wells Cave is really big, and that's right by the takeout there, what is called Poplarville Access. That one really blows out the cold air. I mean, it's bracing. There's just no place like it. We also have a new, relatively new, it's several years old now, wildlife management area down there as well. So
that's right there along the creek.
It sure is. It's called Buck Creek WMA. Everyone owns the water. However, in Kentucky, the private landowner owns the bottom. So
that's true.
When your feet touch the bottom and you're wading, you're in that gray area.
I have been in a canoe club, and we would go out on canoe trips, Elkhorn Creek, wherever it may be. And we would stop, say, for a break, stop for lunch, and I would ask them, I said, are we or are we not trespassing? Because we get out of our boats, we walk on the bottom, walk over to the bank, and I'll ask them, are we or are we not trespassing? The leader of the trip should know. Do you know the 3 criteria that might be met to know if you are or aren't trespassing? 1, if it's public property. You kind of have to know that going in. You have to recognize it as such. And if it isn't, if you have permission, or if you're navigating, if you're in the process of navigating, say you need to carry that canoe or kayak, portage it around a rock, that type of thing. Exactly. In such a case, in those 3 instances, you're safe.
Yes.
Lee McClellan is my guest. A few minutes still to come in the show. And when we come back, we will tell you where to fish for the fish that could land you in the record books. I'll give you a hint. It's a brook trout. Stay here. This is Charlie Baglan. You're listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. You are listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. This is Charlie Baglan, back with our final few minutes with Lee McClellan, the writer, the editor for Kentucky Fish and Wildlife, and the annual publication, the Kentucky Fishing and Boating Guide. You glance through the pages, if it's written in blue, it's new.
It sure is.
Because we're digging for things that are blue, makes me glad to say, oh good, a lot of things have stayed the same.
Yes.
It's not getting more difficult to understand.
No, and that's something that we're very cognizant of. Muskellunge are very, very popular fish, and now there's a 36-inch minimum size limit on muskellunge in Dewey Lake. That's in eastern Kentucky. Also, the Fishing in Neighborhoods program, the 6-acre lake there at the Kentucky Horse Park is now going to be part of the Fishing in Neighborhoods program.
Oh, wonderful. That's nice.
Yeah. So people who are camping, people who want to visit the horse park, you can bring along a rod and do a little fishing while you're out there.
Folks in Scott County, Fayette County, that's going to be a convenience.
It very much will be.
I was talking to Director Ron Brooks of the Kentucky Division of Fisheries earlier today, and I said, Ron, what's key on your plate? What's some of the big things? And he said, expanding that Finns Lake program, hopefully perhaps to get some sponsors to share in the cost of producing these fish and getting them stocked, to make what FIN stands for, Fishing in Neighborhoods, acronym. It's where good fishing is close to home.
Yes. And
they're stocked and they're good to go basically year-round.
I know they want to do a few more. I do know that. The thing with that program is it's extremely popular. My brother takes his kids. He lives in the Danville area, And he takes his kids down there, and they absolutely love it because you catch fish. Worst part of, if you take children fishing, one of the hardest parts about it is if
they don't catch anything, they're not having fun.
Yeah, yes, I know. And he goes to Millennium Park Pond there in Danville. And they catch fish the whole time. They catch little bass, they catch bluegill, they catch fish the whole time, and they're not bored. Boredom is the enemy of children and fishing. I mean, I was that way. If I didn't catch anything in a half hour, I wanted to go skip rocks and stuff like that. My granddad would be furious because he was patient and he had an end goal in mind, and I was bored. If you'll notice on page 27, that's Wyatt Hofer, and he caught the new state record brook trout. That is something that's liable to be. He's looks to be early teenage years. That's an opportunity down there. I just wrote a column about it this week. Is down on Cumberland River, down below the dam there in February, March is a really good time to fish for trout, and also you can pick up some sauger and some walleye.
He looks like he can't be more than 13.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Early teenage. Yeah. But he looks happy, don't he?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
It's a nice brookie he's holding. And those brook trout are showing really good growth rates.
Have you seen many new state records come down the pike?
That's the one. That's what I was kind of getting toward. The brook trout, if you want to set a state record, hit the Cumberland River this spring and try to catch a brook trout because it's been falling fairly regular for the last several years. We've been getting a new one at least every year, if not every other year. If you want to set a state record, that's probably your best chance to get one.
You have heard it from the master.
I'm State Record Fish Program Coordinator, and I've seen several. This seems like it's almost every March we're getting a new state record down there. And those brook trout are just going to keep getting bigger as they're in the river longer.
Yeah, right here on page 27, you have the eligible species and the minimum length. And
that's for the Master Angler Award Program. On the next page is the State Record Fish Program. And it explains the qualifications and what you must go through. And if you don't go through those steps, then it's going to really harm your chances of getting that state record certified. So if you think you've got a state record, consult page 28 of the current fishing guide and follow the steps that must be followed.
Go out on a limb. What do you think the next record to be broken is, and what do you think the one that will never be broken is?
Okay, the one that will never be broken, in my opinion, is the 11-pound, 15-ounce all-tackle world record smallmouth caught by David Hayes in July of 1955 from Dale Hollow Lake. Caught a fish near where he caught that state record or world record not long ago. The one that I think will fall next is the one we're looking at on page 27. I think the brook trout will be the next one to fall. I think that's going to continue to fall until they reach their how big they're going to get in the Cumberland River. The stockings there are they haven't been going on for a super long period of time, several years. So those fish still have a lot of room in which to expand. They get in tailwaters down in Arkansas and stuff. They get in the 5-pound range. So I look for that record to probably be broken again with maybe this March or sometime within a year or so. I suspect that record will fall again.
Kentucky fishing makes a liar out of you. Have you heard that commercial?
Yes, I have.
You heard that said?
Yes.
I think that's pretty darn accurate.
It sure is.
It just makes you want to. What is it about fishing, if it's here or on the moon, that makes you want to embellish the truth?
One is since they live in the water, you can't see them until you have them in. So it's easier. And plus, because of that, because it's unknown, I think your rush of adrenaline and stuff. When you're hunting, it's an adrenaline rush as well. It's thrilling, but you visually see your quarry. In fishing, you don't until you're fighting it, and then And if it's a lot bigger than you thought it was going to be, and you suddenly realize it sends a jolt through your body like nothing else.
It's twice the size that it really is.
Yeah. And then when you get it, it's not quite as big as I thought, but it was really exciting. So
if you turn it in, if you release the fish, you can still go home telling the story of how huge it was.
Exactly, and no one will know the better unless they were there and saw it.
I wish that you would add a page to the Kentucky Fishing and Boating Guide with some helpful guidelines on how to lie about your catch. Not to the conservation officer, but at least to your buddy on your phone or when you get back home or at work the next day. Do you have a guideline yourself?
Well, don't go too overboard or you'll get found out. I caught a 6-pounder on Elkhorn Creek, and I've been fishing there for 20-plus years, and I've never seen a 6-pounder, and I don't think the shocking crew has either.
Caught a 6-pound rock.
Yeah, I mean, a smallmouth. So then I know, now, a little bit less than that, maybe I might buy it. But, you know, when you just go way overboard, you know, no one's going to take the bait on
that. That makes sense. So know what you're lying about.
Yes.
And keep it.
And incrementally lie. Don't go too far. Just maybe kick it up, maybe, you know, a little more than you thought. Add 2 or 3 inches, but don't add 6.
Well, Lee, thanks a million.
It's been enjoyable.
Kentucky fishing, it will make a liar out of you. I love that. Get your fishing and boating guide wherever you buy your fishing license. We are out of time. This is Charlie Baglan inviting you to join us in a week, and we'll go inside outdoors again, right here on Kentucky Afield Radio.